On Britain's second largest mountain in Scotland, there have been some very strange and creepy sightings of a Bigfoot-like creature going back for centuries, and the locals, they call it the Big Gray Man. One of the first famous encounters happened in 1891 when a noted climber, Jay Norman, had a terrifying experience while he was climbing this mountain. While Norman was walking along, he started to hear a loud thump behind him, and at first it was faint. But then it started to get louder and louder, and he noticed that every 3 steps he would take, there would be one loud thump behind him, and it was getting closer. Now, due to the terrain and the fact that he was surrounded by mist at the time, he really couldn't see anything. But he knew that something was there, and whatever this was very big, walked on 2 legs, and it was following him. So he started to get really scared, and eventually he couldn't take it anymore. He was terrified. So he started to run. And at times he would take breaks behind boulders, look back to see if he could see anything, but he never could. And when he finally made it to the bottom of this mountain, he was very thankful to be alive. He was convinced that something very large was stalking him, and he swore that he would never go back to this mountain alone. Now, Norman didn't tell anybody about this, or at least not publicly, until about 30 years later. But when he finally did, a lot more people and experienced climbers just like him started to come forward with their encounters on this mountain. Not too long after Norman told the world about his terrifying encounter, he received a letter from a Dr. Kellis. Dr. Kellis told him that one day he and his brother Henry were really close to the summit. And when they stopped to take a break, they saw a huge giant figure approaching them. And this creature was just so big that it scared them to death. And Dr. Kellis and his brother didn't even communicate with each other. They just started to run. And once they finally got to the bottom of this mountain, they, just like Norman, were very thankful to be alive. Now, they knew that this could not have been a man. It was just way too big. They believed that whatever this was still something not yet documented by science. And since this happened in the early 1900s, nobody in this part of the world really knew about the Yeti, Bigfoot, or Sasquatch, making many believe many years later that this is what they must have encountered on that day. Another encounter happened in the 1940s when a man was camping at the summit. And in the middle of the night, he woke up and saw something very large and brownish right outside the opening of his tent. And this man was so scared by what he was seeing, he froze. And he hoped and prayed that this thing would just go away. And when it finally did, he got out of his tent and saw in the moonlight an enormous creature walking away. And he believed that this creature was about 20 feet tall. Now, I've never heard of a Bigfoot being that tall, but this man did basically describe a Bigfoot. He stated that it was a hairy brown creature that walked similar but not identical to a human, and that it also had a terrible stench and was extremely broad. He believed that if this thing wanted to, it could easily snap him in half. Another encounter happened in the 1990s when a group of 3 men saw a large dark human-shaped figure run across the trail about 200 yards ahead. And although it wasn't clear what they actually saw, they all felt a feeling of dread. But nevertheless, they still kept moving forward, and when they reached the point where this thing had crossed, they heard something to the right of them. And when they looked, they saw a face staring right at them, and whatever this was not human, and just like all the others, they were terrified, and they got the heck out of there. Then about 3 weeks later, when they were not even on this mountain, these 3 men claimed that they had another encounter with this, or maybe another similar creature. One night while they were driving, they saw it come out from the side of the road and start to follow them. And they said that it was capable of running up to about 45 miles per hour. But after about a minute or so, it stopped and gave up. But these men now started to wonder if this creature was stalking them. There was also another famous case when a man claimed that he had actually shot at it while he was climbing the mountain. But he must have missed because he never could find a body or any blood on the ground. Then in 1965, a group of hikers stated that they stumbled upon some huge tracks that measured to be about 14 inches long. And these tracks were about 5 feet apart. So if this was real and not a hoax, whatever made this must have been huge with a very long stride. Now, there are also a lot of other things other than a Bigfoot-like creature being reported on this mountain. Some claim to hear ghostly music and voices speaking in an unknown or maybe an ancient language. And although they can hear it very clearly, they can never find the source. Some claim that while they're hiking here, for no reason, they just get overwhelmed with a feeling of fear and dread, and they feel that they need to just get off the mountain. But the most common reports are from people hearing loud footsteps right behind them. And on most of these occasions, it would be a perfectly clear day. No mist, no clouds, no place for anything to hide, but yet, there's nothing behind them. And these hikers that witness this phenomena do get really freaked out, and they truly believe that they're being followed by something very big. And these reports are interesting because I have covered some Bigfoot sightings where eyewitnesses swear that they had encountered a Bigfoot. And while they were just staring at this Bigfoot in total disbelief, they claim that it also just disappeared right in front of their eyes. And a lot of people do believe that the Bigfoot, Yeti, or Sasquatch are spiritual animals. Now there are just so many paranormal things going on in this mountain that I hope that one day I will get to go here and hopefully do an investigation of my own. Until next time, this is Paranormal Junkie. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned.